Welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me on Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. And sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, 1-8_70 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads.
What's up, everybody? Co-hosting from the Borough of Kings, fresh off my experience at AnimeNYC 2024. We'll be talking about that shortly.
Just a kid from Brooklyn.
Indeed, and I am not fresh off of my experience at Soda City Comic Convention because I did not get over there, so that sucks. But what are you gonna do? You can find this here podcast on the Coastal of the Podcast Network. That's ESPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal of the Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and leave us all the positive 5-star reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts, because that will help people find our show.
Indeed. Speaking of Indeed, John Wick movies have been coming on all weekend. So just had to watch those.
John.
Yes. Kill. Who does that? Kill with a pencil. But yeah, folks, so just like Agent 70 just mentioned, we're going to start the show off really quickly with his recap of his excursion to AnimeNYC. Take it away.
Sure. So AnimeNYC is an anime, basically an anime and manga focused convention that is relatively new to the convention scene. It was in November of last year, but they switched it up this year, and apparently they just announced that they're also going to be returning in the summer as well, roughly around the same time, late August of 2025. And my one of my friends who went to the previous AnimeNYC in the fall said it was a little different. It might have had something to do with the date change, but at the end of the day, it was still very much. This is my perspective. It was very much similar to New York Comic Con in that it's pretty crowded. I only went on Saturday. The entrance was pretty uncomplicated compared to New York Comic Con because it's still not as big as New York Comic Con. It's at the Jacob Javits Center in New York City, so the venue is very familiar to me. But the content and the layout really changed things up for me. And I will confess to feeling out of sorts and feeling somewhat confused being on the con floor, and I'll help fill you in on as to why. But I did cosplay. I was dressed as one of my favorite Haikyuu Karasuno High School Volleyball Club players, Sawamura Daiichi, and there was a Haikyuu panel on Saturday, which is awesome. Right. So I did attend one of the panels and it was great. It was, in fact, well attended. It was, packed full in one of the main panel spaces, like the bigger panel spaces. There were folks from Toho and from Studio IG there to talk about how the production of the most recent Battle of the Dumpster movie and or the Dumpster Battle movie. It was interesting, obviously, to have the panel both moderated and translated. That's not something I'm used to, but obviously when you're dealing with folks whose primary language is in English or something other than your own language, you have to deal with translation. I'm like, wow, this is very much a different feel for me, and it was very interesting to sit through that and to see other people who are haiku fans, just really enjoy listening to how the creative process is already one thing when it comes to translating manga into anime. It's another thing when they're translating manga into like a feature length movie, start to finish. That's not going to necessarily be broken up into episodes the way some of the other movies that we've seen have been treated. So it's very interesting to listen in on the creatives speak about the process. That's pretty much like the one bit of content that I went to that I attended at the con. No other panels for me, no cosplay shows for me. The rest of the show I basically spent walking around trying to get the gist of what they were trying to sell, because I went in ready to buy. I went in ready to commission some art for my sketchbook, and lo and behold, I kind of discovered that the artists that were there were selling wares. They were selling prints and other tchotchkes and things that they had made, but I did not see any signs for commissions. It's very different from New York Comic Con, where it's very clear that artists are opening themselves up for commissions for whatever the rate is for a head sketch, a bust sketch, a full body sketch, or whatnot. Full color. They'll put out all their prices pretty plainly. This is not what I encountered at AnimeNYC. Rather, they were mostly selling their prints and maybe sending you a link to their website. I did see one artist who said they would do commissions, but they would be taking them online. I don't know if you could pick them up that day or if they would just get mailed to you, because they would be prepared on the artist's specific paper. So I guess they would be mailed to you eventually. But other than that, I didn't really see what I was looking for. So what I saw was just a little different from what I was expecting. Bottom line, though, is the crowd is pretty friendly. I think they would have benefited from having a central cosplay area, the way that New York Comic Con has a central cosplay area. They did have, obviously it's the summertime, so it's a little, it's not as easy to keep people outside. They want to keep people indoors and relatively comfortable, because things can get a little crazy when they're outside and sweaty and all that. They did have some cosplay meetups, which I attended. I actually attended the Haikyuu cosplay meetup, which was fun. But they had that indoors, and so I guess that's the closest you can get to like a central cosplay area, and I guess that had to be a decent substitute. But I feel like it lacked like that energy that comes with the outdoor cosplay area that New York Comic Con has in this particular area of Javits. But that area was used for the security check-in for AnimeNYC, because that's the space. That's how they allocated the space. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can mention about my time. In terms of the vendors were okay. Lots of cutesy things. Very much just like a shrunken down vendor area from what we're used to at New York Comic Con. The food choices were pretty good. Obviously they're very much Asian and Japanese styled fare, so that was good to see. I hope that we get some more of those for New York Comic Con. And that's pretty much it. I don't know if Roddykat has any questions.
Well, the one question I was going to have in relation to what I'm doing specifically was, can I show your cosplay picture?
Sure.
All right, here we go. I've been kind of cycling through pictures from the show, and here is Agent 70 with his friend, what's his name, Boss Jones.
Boss Jones, at Boss Jones on Instagram.
There you go. Yep, and you can see him right there. All decked out in his Haikyuu gear, of course.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Listen, I was there, one of the few people who actually plays volleyball, like at the Haikyuu cosplay. I kind of got a kick out of this one group of cosplayers who were like holding up a soccer ball. I'm like, stop! You can't take a picture with that. So I handed them my volleyball, you know. But yeah, no, it was overall a pretty fun experience.
Gotcha. I guess what was the your best part of the show from from your experience?
Just seeing the various cosplay, because there's a different balance. Like New York Comic Con, obviously there's a heavy bent towards like American style characters with like a smatter, like with like a lesser smatter, not even a smattering, a lesser percentage of anime characters. Obviously, this is the other way around, where I did see like a Spider-Man Noir, I did see an Endgame Captain America costume, but they were in the far minority. Everyone was dressed up as an anime character, and I thought that was fun.
Gotcha. We talked about this before the show. Being that this was your first oops, okay, that's somebody's video. I assume you're gonna go back again next year.
I think so. It's funny. I made a comment to my friend at Boss Jones and his friend that we were with, that this is probably like a 1-day show for me, but it might be a 2-day show, given that I might want to give myself like more time to explore. Right. I might do like a Saturday, Sunday, just to, maybe use that Sunday to kind of clean up anything I want to take a closer look at.
Right.
I think that may be what I changed, what I might change, that is, going forward.
Gotcha. That was actually a question that I should have wrote down before the show, and now I can't remember it. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and take care of this right now. This is not necessarily related to the show, but you did say you had a little bit of toy corner that
Sure.
is related.
Sure. I mean, I have some stuff that I picked up that I'll go over later very quickly. But in terms of what I picked up specifically at AnimeNYC, I stopped at the Tamashii Nations, and this is a little bit of a commentary on what my experience was. I kind of gravitated towards the booths that I was familiar with. Right. So I went to the Tamashii Nations. I picked up this Goku, this Challenger Goku. Innocent Challenger, so it's like Goku with the staff, the elongating staff. I forget the name of it, but it's a little figure. It's not very expensive. It's only like $36, I think, and for Tamashii Nations, that's pretty cheap. I picked that up, and I picked up from Manhattan Portage, which is like a bag maker. That's based out of Manhattan. I got a sling bag / fanny pack. I know these as fanny packs, but a lot of people wear them as sling bags. Like a crossbody.
Right.
It's Attack on Titan. You see the scout, the scout logo.
Yeah. Okay, there we
right
go.
there.
Yeah.
Right there, the scout logo. So yeah. So if I'm gonna wear a fanny pack or a sling bag, it's gonna have an Attack on Titan on it. So I picked that up. So those are the two main things. I did see a lot of people like carrying around prints, but not as many as I thought. But obviously, it's just not the same, I really would like to support these smaller artists, with the with the. I wanted to support them doing commissions, but I just didn't see any signs. I should have just given it more time and just like walked up to a couple and say, "Hey, would you like to draw in my sketchbook?" So that might be something I try next year, and I'll see if there's a change in in the signage and maybe in my approach.
Here we go. So you met up with your friend Malcolm, and you did say he goes fairly regularly, right?
Yeah, he went to this one last year. Yeah.
Right. Oh, so this is like what, second I'm going?
I think
Or
so.
is it
I
going
don't
before?
know. It might be the third because I think they had 2 in the winter and then they switched it to the summer. But that's just that could be my bad memory.
Mm. Okay, because I was gonna ask if if he had anything that was particularly irksome about the show.
Irksome? No, not
That
really.
for lack of a better word.
Right?
You know.
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I mean, he just noticed it was like slightly different, but probably because of the change. Oh wait, I just Googled. So I just Googled it and I found the wiki. So apparently it's been going on since 2017, but it started out pretty small. And so it moved to the Javits in 20. No, it was always at the Javits. They had it since 2017.
Okay.
Right. Obviously, 2020 was canceled because of COVID.
Right.
And gotcha. All right.
Okay.
That's interesting. Right. So they've used the Javits the entire time, but just over. They've had more people. It's been growing. It's been growing.
Not surprisingly.
Yeah. It's been growing. So that's interesting. Thank you for putting up a wiki page for these people.
Yeah, there's a wiki for pretty much everything at this point. So I saw one the other day for the Wayans Brothers show. I'm like, did that necessarily need a wiki? No, but it was there. So there you go. Anyway, okay, so that was that. I think I had, as I told Agent 70 before the show, I had heard of some anecdotal rumblings, or at least bits of rumblings, I guess, from a couple of folks that I know that I don't know for what reason didn't seem like they were going to head back next year, but I haven't found out why they said as much, and I haven't seen whether there were other people who were having similar issues or whatnot. So that is something to I guess to look into if it was if it's something pressing. So
we don't know if they were just complaining about the hotel or
yeah, that's probably the show and just in general because the hotel's going to be the hotel.
Well, you never know.
I mean, yeah, it could be related very much. Because so I don't know. Like I said, if I get a little bit more information about that, then I'll see what's the deal with. But for right now, though, we are going to move on unless Agent 7 has got something else he wanted to say in closing.
No. It's just it was a very interesting experience for me because there are definitely a couple firsts involved for me, but at the same time, I kind of get I guess that was the most I could sympathize and empathize with people who are going to New York Comic Con for the first time who are not Comic Con goers because of the sensory my senses being overwhelmed. It's like sensory overload. Because there's a lot to take in when you walk in. You just can't quite, like I said before, and I'll say it again. The aisles are roughly the same. You have a feeling, where the vendors are. You have a feeling, you look up for the signs. You see where the big booths are. You see where the artist alley is, but it's just different enough to be disconcerting and kind of borderline confusing for at least a good chunk of time. So, but I'll know better if I go back, and probably when I will go back next year.
Gotcha. Okay, so would you go? Are there any other anime cons that you are curious about, whether in the area or not?
My understanding is that there's some in Jersey, there's one in Boston, there's Otakon in DC. I don't know if I'm a big enough anime person yet to make that kind of pilgrimage. I think that I might be tempted if there was like a big Haikyuu thing, at one of them, but I did, I was fortunate enough to have a big Haikyuu panel. Like one of the main panels of Saturday was for Haikyuu. I was like, this is awesome.
Right. There's also MomoCon. I know somebody if they were around, they would yell at, but MomoCon is in Atlanta.
Gotcha.
And that's a
Can I tell you before we move on? At the Haikyuu panel, they had giveaways at the end, and if you were cosplaying, you were eligible. So I was in, but then they did the one thing. It was just like I was playing open play, and I was like a captain of a team trying to figure out who's gonna play first. We did rock paper scissors, and I went out on the third throw. I was like, damn it. Because I threw rock, and I threw scissors, and then I threw rock again, and then the person on stage who was doing the giveaway threw paper. I was like, damn it.
Good game of junkin', I tell you, gets you every time.
Yeah. So I laughed because they were giving away some cool stuff, and I was like, oh. But no, it was like I said, it was a lot of fun. I'm not so deep into anime and manga that like I think I would be like that I would be enticed into going really, really far.
Right.
But give it some time. I'm still working my way through the Haikyuu manga. The only manga I've actually technically finished was My Hero, which just finished last week or 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. And hey, you got something higher up on the list before all of that. So, being
what's that?
San Diego.
Oh yeah, exactly. I got to make it to San Diego first.
So
that's got to take priority.
Yeah, got to get you down here for Heroes too. But that's sad.
Yeah.
Anywho's, oh, okay. Stupid question, real quick, and then we'll move on. Did they go on 3, or was it 1, 2, 3, go?
It was rock, paper, scissors, shoot. So it was go.
So it was 1, 2, 3, go. Gotcha. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So people do it different ways. Anyway. All right, folks.
I laughed. I was just like, oh, I can't believe I lost this. It's like typical.
Sometimes you second guess yourself on that stuff. It's like, damn, what like, yeah, they're gonna do this, or they're gonna do this, so if I do that, I got to do that, whatever. All right, folks, we're gonna move on to before we even get into that. We're going to get into the books of the week, starting off with Ultimate Spider-Man number 8.
Ultimate Spider-Man number 8 is written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Marco Cacchetto, with colors by Matthew Wilson and letters by VC's Corey Petit. Now, forgive me, folks. It's been a couple days since I read these books. So Tony Stark, this version of Tony Stark, the younger version of Tony Stark, is basically letting Peter and Harry in on what's going on, with the whole parallel universe things and how they've come to be. That's at least part of this, because there's some flashback. That's kind of there's some flashbacks going on in this as well. There's some fun family stuff going on in here, but the big thing that you're going to see in this issue is that there is a version of one villain team up in the Spidey corner of the Marvel Universe that takes place here, and I'll hand it off to Roddykat with that.
Yeah, so coming out of that last issue, we were led to be believe, and I guess we weren't really led to be believe. That's not entirely true. I believe the words immortal weapons was bandied about, if I'm not mistaken, or was that in Ultimates? Yeah, so that wasn't it. Yeah. But as Agent 70 just said, we definitely got another totally different group that seems to be formed, not necessarily named.
Yeah, the immortal. I was about to say the immortal weapons was Ultimates.
Was it Ultimates? Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure they were kind of blended together because it's So that being said, yeah. So we get this team up here, and in true Spider-Man family, it plays out in a way, that a gang war would, in a sense, because you meet the major players, but the major players are not all well, the major players are underneath one major player. Put it this way, that is brought together, and it's an interesting, weird group. Some you might know, some of them you would not expect to be associated with. But then again, this is the Ultimate Universe and not 616, so there is that. We find out that some would say a classic X-Men / Spider-Man team-up villain may exist, or at least their name was up on a billboard, or name was up on a building that the Parkers were in. So I found that kind of amusing. Yeah, Peter finds out how special he's special, and Harry finds out that he's not even registered on a list.
Oh, I see the building. Yeah.
Yes.
Like I just did it. I remembered that, just didn't register when you mentioned it. But go on.
Right. And
yeah, Harry's sorry. I was going to say Harry's not on a particular list, and he's not happy about it.
Yeah, so that's probably going to come up at some point as well.
Yeah, just a bit of a like a nagging problem, probably.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you know the circumstances between him and Tony Stark in this universe, including a thing that Peter references that happened to him a few issues back from Harry.
Right.
So it was kind of a little bit of a turnabout there, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, halfway through the book, we get an interesting conversation between Peter and another thing. Which, if you've been keeping up with Ultimate Spider, you kind of know what that is already. Which kind of leads me to believe that that's going to be Venom at some point.
You think so?
I think so. I could be wrong about it, but I don't know why. But this is like, we know what the thing.
It's like an accelerate. It's an accelerated version of Venom.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like something's going to happen, and that thing's just going to turn into Venom. Which, you know what, it would fall in line with what happened. It may not happen in the same way that it happens in the Prime universe, but I feel it's going to happen.
It just seems like it's quick, but then at the same time, they are on an accelerated timeline for a lot of things. They want to knock out as many cool stories as they can while they have the chance.
Right. And they're definitely leading up to that one thing in here and Ultimates, which I don't think it has presented itself in X-Men or Black Panther yet, but because they've kind of still been in their separate corners. But yeah, so Ultimate Spider-Man, that being said, is continues to be pretty great. So I'm still here for whatever this presents, and if that Venom thing doesn't happen, I'd probably be slightly bummed because it just feel like it's right there. But at the same time, they're not beholden to it.
Right.
So next up, let's see, what did I say? I said it was Namor, number 2 of 8.
Namor, number 2 of 8, is written by Jason Aaron with art by Paul Davidson and Alex Lins, colors by Neera J. Menon, and letters by our favorite lettering python, the hardest working letterer over at VC's Joe Caramagna. So I was kind of trying to figure out what Jason Aaron was getting at when we got the first issue of Namor. What the purpose of this miniseries was. The first issue was really reestablishing Namor's footing in the Marvel Universe, right? Because we had seen him play a certain role. We had seen him go, get thrown into prison, basically, in Invaders, if I'm not mistaken.
That's probably the case, yes.
Right. So this second issue is, I think, the thrust of this series, right? Establishing Namor's why to a certain extent, with a little bit of a retcon thrown in there. And the thrust of the story of the series is, you know, kind of exploring Namor's past to establish what his future might very well be, given that, yeah, they've had a Wakanda Forever movie, but the Namor character is still kind of out there, still kind of not necessarily. You know, I still don't think that they've really figured out what they want to do with Namor the character, period. So it's interesting that this may very well be the series that helps launch the character in a new direction. And with that, I'll hand it off to Roddykat.
Yeah, it's honestly, this book was very curious as to why, because as you just said, yeah, the Wakanda Forever movie kind of, you know, put him out there in the MCU, but we didn't necessarily. Well, I mean, I guess there was not anything with him featured.
It was a little bit, but it wasn't a lot. It was not a lot.
Might have been before that though. Like
right. That's the thing. Like us, like with our sense of time and history, it's hard to remember exactly. We'd have to do a little bit of legwork to confirm that. But I feel like there was, but I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent. Go on.
Yeah. That being said, you know, this book was a curiosity from the inset. So with what they're doing in here by basically putting Namor in this situation and basically putting him in the middle of a civil war, you know, an undersea civil war, as they called it. Dang it, I forgot what they called it. World War C.
Right. I think
in the first issue. So, you know, basically in this issue, he's going around to basically the biggest threat, quote unquote, and making his way around to kind of see what's what.
Right. Know? Kind of dealing with Attuma pretty quickly, and Attuma's not always been able to be dealt with pretty quickly.
Right. Which I have it in my notes. I have his name is Akuma for some stupid reason. So I'm glad you said that. Yeah, pretty much. I was like, wait, that's not right. But yeah, as Agent 70 said, we do see some dealings with his past, and apparently the past is also catching back up to him in the form of a character that we meet in this issue from his past that, let's just say, has some MCU leanings. Not necessarily has been in the MCU, but there's some MCU trappings from where this character comes from in relation to Namor.
Wait, so?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
MCU.
Yeah. If you think about how they portrayed or how they set up Namor in Wakanda Forever and where he was, there is a kind of a similar thing to that here with that character. It's not necessarily a 1-to-1, but you can kind of see the.
Okay, I'll have to think more about it because, well, what I kind of liked about it is that they made her Pacific Islander.
Right. That's kind of part of it, but yeah.
Right. Got it. Okay.
But also where that character's from, it kind of leans into where they set up Namor.
I was getting Moana vibes, but anyway.
I mean, that would be fair. No one's gonna kick you for that one. But no, it just felt like the way she described where she was from and whatnot just kind of seemed how they described the MCU Namor's setting.
Got it.
So it was kind of curious to me, or maybe I'm just thinking too much about it, and that could very well be the case too. But I think I feel like I'm okay with this one because yeah, it just seems like it. Regardless, as I say in my notes, he kind of met. You know, we are introduced to someone from his past that is not Marina, that could have been a potential kindred spirit, which actually is a kindred spirit in one way, shape, or form. But
I was about to say more ways than we're used to understanding because we're used to thinking that Namor is the first mutant.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So is this character...
To which he still is, but...
second or third or fifth? So...
Right, and that part right there is the case because okay, so they definitely have similarities, but because of, like I said, what I said earlier, like the, past things that they brought up just so happened to come back to the present, quote unquote, at the end of this issue, and we're going to see how that plays out. I assume with the rest of the series, if not the next issue, in relation to this whole World War C thing,
Right.
in these in these 8 issues. So yeah, I know it's still, like I said, it's this kind of a thing. It's like, yeah, it's not a bad book. It's just a matter of like you kind of want to see where it goes, and since
Right.
we know how long this book is, you can you can kind of take that moment.
Right, and it's not a bad length. 8 issues is like a good, that's like a good length for most writers to really tell like a solid, not one and done, but a solid story.
Right, and if it happens to set up something else for Namor, or even the seaside of the Marvel universe, then I guess we'll see. No
Right.
pun intended. Yeah. All right, that's being the case.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly waiting to see if there's going to be a Stingray reference dropped in there, but go on.
Nah, yeah, surprisingly, not this time. I'm sure Matt Wang's upset. But,
oh no.
but I'm sure he's fine. I still need to find out whether he got caught up with it or not to read it, but we'll find out. Next and last book that we have in common is Phoenix #2.
Phoenix #2 is written by Stephanie Phillips with art by Alessandro Miraculo, colors by David Curiel, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. So family's always messy.
Mm-hmm.
They even say that in the book. And Jean runs across her father-in-law in space.
Of course.
And what's that?
Of course.
Of course, because that's the way comics works. It's a small universe after all. Mm-hmm. And especially if you're the wielder of the Phoenix Force, or one and the same, and you can traverse light years in seconds. So in response to a distress call, Jean responds, and Corsair is up to no good apparently, but we're trying to figure out why, and the children of Thanos are somehow involved in this, and the Pericus character is still around from the first issue, so there's still a little bit of setup here. It's our understanding that this Phoenix book is an ongoing, so we're probably going to get at least 8, if not 10, if not 12 issues before we start to see if there might be rumblings of this title going the way of the dodo. But it seems like there's a bit of a long form story forming here right now.
Right. This is one of those things where, hey, it depends on whether this book sells or not.
Right.
So it's that part we'll find out probably fairly soon.
Right. I mean, we've been talking about how, and if I'm not mistaken, I mentioned this in our discussion of the first issue. The Marvel Space Corner is pretty bare right now. Right, we do not have a lot of books that cover that area. There's no Guardians book out right now, and Phoenix might be one toehold, one footstep in that direction.
Right.
If trying to reestablish some space books.
Right, because at most we can see, well, clearly, if she's out in space, then she's probably likely to run into some spacefaring characters like she did in this particular issue.
Right, and in the first issue, it's a lot of that,
Sans' crew.
What's that?
Sans' crew.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, remember we saw Nova in the first one.
Right.
So,
which means so the Guardians could come up. Hell, we could get around Space Knight if this book lasts long enough. I don't know. Things are crazy. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Like, yeah, they could do some things with this. We'll see what happens. And of course, we'll see what's right. And we're not here wishing for the book to end by no stretch, but we don't have control over that either way. So just in case anybody had that thought in their head.
Right, because at the end of the day, all we're looking to see is where this book is going and how far they're willing to let it go, depending on the sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which in some cases you wish it didn't come down to that, but in some cases more than others it does, and this is one of those cases.
Yeah.
Sadly, and with that, thus endeth the books that we have in common. Rapid fire.
All righty, we're getting our rapid fire reviews in. I've got a lot of books this week.
I ain't got time to bleed.
First up is Nightwing number 117. It's written by Tom Taylor with art by Bruno Redondo, inks by Caio Philippe, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Wes Abbott. This is a pretty strong issue of Nightwing because we get to the bottom of a couple of mysteries here. One is why Nightwing was having some trouble with heights, and it's an interesting resolution to it, and it involves Deadman Boston Brand. Meanwhile, we find out from Bruce Wayne that the Nightwing suit is a little bit more snug than the Batman suit, which is kind of hard to believe, but maybe it has to do with the undies being on the outside. I don't know. It's a pretty fun book, definitely a candidate for Click of the Week for me. Next up is Blood Squad 7 number 4. It's written by Joe Casey with art by Paul Fry, colors by Francesco Segala and Agnes Posa, with letters by Russ Wooton. We get some resolution to this Ripcord saga in the first 4 issues, but we do have more story to come in issue number 5, so this is not the last you will see of Blood Squad 7. Just as a quick recap, this is the Image book that it's kind of like the long lost Image book from the 90s, from the era of Wildcats, Youngblood, and Cyberforce. This is just a team book in that vein, and it's still really fun. Next, Daredevil Woman Without Fear number 2 of 4. So this is a 4-issue limited series. We're halfway through. It's written by Erica Schultz with art by Michael Dowling, colors by Dee Cunniffe, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. Elektra is in Madripoor, as written by Erica Schultz. And she is pursuing the kidnappers of her kind of erstwhile sidekick. Guess who shows up though? It's the not quite new, but not quite let's say not quite as good as the former Punisher. It's the new Punisher. Shows up for whatever reason out of nowhere in Madripoor, and Elektra basically takes him apart. But he gets in the way of her investigation, and that is, of course, going to lead into the second half of this series. Next up is Giant Size Thor number 1. This is the last Giant Size book for this 85th anniversary observation. The big Giant Size books. It's written by Al Ewing with art by Brian Level. I got a kick out of this guy's name, Brian Level. Colors by Guru EFX and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So I've said this earlier. Any of these giant size books, which are basically like annuals that are written by the ongoing writer, mean something. They actually contribute to the ongoing narrative that's going on in the regular book, and this book is no exception. It involves Hercules, involves some god stuff. It's really a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I could not get enough of this book. It's kind of silly, but it's still a lot of fun. It's definitely a candidate for Click of the Week for me. Next up and last up for me is Ghost Rider Final Vengeance number 6. It's written by Benjamin Percy with art by Danny Kim, colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. I read this just to make sure that the Hood got what was coming to him, and I was definitely satisfied with the ending of this book. Good for him. such a silly character, you know. But ultimately, we do get the ending that we were kind of expecting, because we did not expect to see the spirit of vengeance be in the possession of, no pun intended, or be in possession of the hood, as it goes both ways. And bottom line is, we should have kind of like the status quo back for the Ghost Riders going forward. Ghost Riders plural. And that's it for me.
I was going to say one, make a joke.
I skipped one.
Did you?
Wolverine Revenge number 1 of 5.
Huh.
Last book, folks. Hold on to your question, please. It's written by Jonathan Hickman with pencils by Greg Capullo, inks by Tim Townsend, colors by FCO Placencia, that's a name, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. So Wolverine Revenge number 1 is, I think, like an alternate world story, or else it's like a what if type story, where lots of things have happened. Asteroid M has crashed into the Earth, and everyone's back in the Stone Age for the most part. And Wolverine's on a mission to take revenge, because some characters that are near and dear to some of our hearts bite the big one at the beginning, like in the course of this particular issue, and we'll see how far Wolverine is willing to go to take his revenge out on the ne'er-do-wells. So it's fun, it's gory, it's kind of interesting to see Hickman and Capullo work together on like a non-continuity type book. So we'll see where it goes. Now that's it for me. I'm sorry, your question?
No, the question was a joke. Actually, I was going to say, when you were talking about Daredevil, saying that the Punisher popped in, I was going to say which one, because there's been a few of them, even though I know there is a newer one. There is a new one, but at the same time, there's been, 3, 4 outside of Frank Castle, not counting Cosmic,
Right.
So it's kind of funny when it says like, yeah, it's the new Ghost Rider. I mean, the new Punisher just popped in. But also, it's not exactly outside of realm possibilities that the Punisher will be in Madripoor, though. So, and when you said sidekick, I was about to say Matt Murdock.
No, not Matt Murdock.
Yeah, I know.
Matt's got his own thing going on. Yeah.
Right. So, but anyway. For me, Batman, Superman, World's Finest number 30. Written by Mark Waid, art by Gleb Melnikov, art by what did I do there? Art by Tamra. Nope, sorry, not art. Colors by Tamra. That's what that was supposed to be. Tamara Bonvillain, and letters by Dave Sharp. Hey, folks, this is I got this in air quotes, recounting the first team up of the DC Trinity plus Robin in this book, because I've still not really put to where this is supposed to be in mainline continuity, because there's been a lot of points in past issues that it's not. For reasons. So, but I don't recall whether they said yay or nay on that, or one way or another. But to me, it doesn't seem like it has ever been in mainline continuity. Nevertheless, we Batman, Superman, and Batman and Superman ended up on Themyscira to help out Wonder Woman on a mystery that she apparently could not handle, so she called in her friends. So it seems like it's a one-off, but it also seems like, knowing Wade, this is probably something that's going to come back up at some point. But we shall see, at some point. Next up, Destro. I was about to say, no, I did not read that. Destro, number 3 of 5. Written by Dan Waters, art by Andrea Milana, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Russ Wooten. So it's Destro versus this mysterious assassin that was sent by the Crimson Twins, whose name I don't know if this is a person of note from the universe, because this could be very much a newer character that I'm not aware of. But I don't know that for certain. Everything I just told you is pretty much all I know about it. We get a little bit more history on Clan McCullen. And before we see Destro seeking asylum in the last place, you'd think he'd he'd do that way. But it also makes sense as to where and why he went to, and to that part. But on the other side of it, we also get, hey, there are some people in Destro's camp that might have caught a clue to the fact that what Destro thinks, who Destro thinks is after him, might not be the case. So because the last couple of issues has been Destro versus the Crimson Twins at each other, but it also, from what we fairly know, neither one of them did it. So there is another player that hasn't presented themselves yet, but we also think we know who that player is probably is. As to why he's doing it, we don't know. Well, we kind of know, but we don't know for certain yet. But I guess we'll find out in the next 2 issues. Next up for myself is Dick Tracy, number 4. Anyway, Dick Tracy, number 4. Well, here we are. Written by Alex Segura and Michael Morrissey. Colors by Geraldo Borges. Creative consultant Chantel Amy Osman. Colors by Mark Englert. And letters by Jim Campbell. So apparently there's a new player on the streets, and they're after one of the main bad guy characters. I guess trying to go for territory and whatnots in the play that they're making. Tracy and his friend plays good cop, bad cop. Trying to stir up some attention. Tracy also has PTSD from his time to the war because that keeps coming up every issue. Where that's going, not sure, but I guess we'll find out. On the other side of it, Tess Trueheart went to get some information on her own, and she seems to be having better luck at the end of this issue than Tracy and his friend does in the end. So we'll see how that plays off in the next issue. Next up, Star Trek. Excuse me. Number 23. Written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. Arts by Megan Levins. Colors by Lee Luffridge, who apparently I just found out is also writing. Or just started. I don't know if he just started, but or they just started writing. But apparently they're writing books as well as doing art on them now. So that's interesting. Not this book, but a other books or any other book that I think just came out. And letters by Clayton Cowles. Not VC on this particular one. So you might know a character named Lore if you are a Star Trek fan, specifically Star Trek Next Generation. Yeah, well, he's back to cause some problems in the godly realm. He, as I say in my notes, he basically comes to crash the Space Gods party with a very specific thing that he wants to happen, to which Cisco, if he had the power to do, would very much give up to him. But that kind of, causes some dialogue between characters and whatnot. Meanwhile, there a couple of characters basically make up and try to go and spoil Laura's plans. And of course, the rest of the crew of the USS Theseus have their own, try to figure out their own way to deal with things, including some help from downtown from one Wesley Crusher, given to his mom in I think the last issue or 2. So we shall see what ends up happening after that, or at the end of that, because let's just say at the end of this book, our whole universe is in a hot dense space, and then the rest of that song from that show that you probably heard 1,000 times. Something happens. Next up is ThunderCats number 7, written by Declan Shalvey, art by Drew Moss, colors by Martina Pignadelli, and letters by Jeff Eckleberry. So I know Agent 70 is going to read this, so I'm not going to spoil it. But realistically, if you, like he, have seen the cover of this issue, you kind of get the gist of what's happening. WilyKit and WilyKat are off on an adventure, and they stumble into some stuff. I say stumble, but actually they kind of did stumble. Actually, on the side of that, there's some things going on with the mutants, including one that I'm not familiar with, or which probably was a later season one, but I still don't remember that one. I would have to go look it up, but I didn't take the time to do that. And at the end of this, we find out there's another. Well, we get a conversation between Panthro and Lion-O about the events of last issue, but not everything. And we also get, let's just say, probably some more secrets that are being kept between for some odd reason from Lion-O. Well, in this particular case, when you read, you know why it's being kept, but it still doesn't make that much sense. So, next up, yeah, book continues to be good. Let's see, Spider-Woman number 10. I did not get around to the Miles Morales annual that I had intended to, but and there was another book that actually came out that we didn't get a copy of that I wanted to check out. But there is that. But Spider-Woman number 10 is written by Steve Fox, art by Ed Guara, colors by Arif Prianto, and letters by BC's Joe Sabino. Apparently, this is the last issue of this run.
Yeah, I actually read this. I didn't put it on my list because I skimmed it, and it would, I skipped a lot of this book.
Right.
I mean, a lot of issues of this book, so I didn't really understand what was going on. But when I got to the end of it, I noticed that it was the last issue.
Right. So basically, just kind of quick catch up. Jess has been going after Hydra because of what they did to her son, and we found out pretty much the gist of what Hydra was doing, and then she was also looking for her for a son prior to that, or at least coming into this volume, to which they had a run in already. So there is that. But yeah, we find out what Hydra was doing with her son and other folks, including this this new team of I was about to say not even Midwest Avengers quality. That's kind of harsh.
I mean, it's kind of true.
Yeah, it is.
I did get a kick out of seeing this particular character return, and to see what happened to this character in the recent past. So
yes, so we found out a classic. Well, I'm using air quotes for that. Sorry, classic Iron Man villain who apparently we last saw from a classic event from said Iron Man is the one partially behind some of the doings and is up against Jess in this particular case. She doesn't really care, but we got 2 whole pages of exposition from this dude.
Right. And what was great about it? Honestly, what was great about it is, as a Marvel Legends collector, right? Mm-hmm. I'm always looking at the trends of which groups are still being released, which teams are being released in terms of Marvel Legends characters. Mm-hmm. And the Soviet super soldier, or the what do they call the Winter Guard?
Yes.
Right. So the Winter Guard has at least for a time, a pretty stable group of members, at least in the 80s, right? 80s, early 90s, and then they went through some changes in the roster. And I've been looking at what's coming out, and I'm like, "Where's Titanium Man? Where's Titanium Man? I don't see like a Titanium Man here." I know Titanium Man has had a couple of different characters behind the armor, but the one that I remember is Gremlin.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting to see him pop up again here. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm waiting for, you know, I may not build the Winter Guard at one point, but you know, if they ever put out a Titanium Man, like, oh, you know, it might be time to start tracking down these Winter Guard characters.
Wait, did they do an Ursa Major?
Yes, he was a Build-A-Figure.
That's
which
what
is
I
a pain.
okay.
Right.
That makes sense right there.
He was a Build-A-Figure.
Right.
And the Crimson Dynamo, I think, was a Build-A-Figure too, which is annoying.
Gotcha. So just to wrap up Spider-Man number 10, which, like I said, did absolutely wrap up. They did something here which I wasn't too thrilled about because, and I don't know if this is going to be a thing going forward, but let's just say the name New Champions came up, and I say the nay.
Yeah. Not for these guys.
Right. Exactly. So like, no. We're not, this is not what we do. We had the last group we had was a great group. Now, if you want to put them up in there, maybe, and bring all of them back, maybe, but they're already deep as it is. So no, these kids can't cut it. Personally. But the fact that was a name drop, it kind of had me go, nope, no, absolutely not. I refuse this. But anyway, like I said, Jess in the end pretty much, you know, wrapped up things with this and those kids, and she may be back at some point. They did reference the fact that she's in the Spider Society book, which I don't think we talked about. Did we talk about it last week?
What's that?
Spider Society. Yeah, I can't remember. You might have mentioned it, but I don't remember.
Very quickly, probably in passing.
Right. So yeah, so Jess is in there, so she's still, you know, kind of popped up and around, but she doesn't at this point. She doesn't have her own book. So we'll see if that happens again.
Yeah, no, I did talk about it because I remember mentioning that not the Jessica Drew version of Spider-Woman, but the Across the Spider-Verse version of Spider-Woman appeared.
Right, that's right. You did. I do remember you saying that. Last book for me. Nope. Well, no, that is the last book for me because we did that one. Predator versus Black Panther number 1 of 4, written by Benjamin Percy, art by Chris Allen, Sean Damian Hill, and Craig Young, and Lee Ferguson. Color artist Eric Arciniega, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So, I'm just going to read off my notes here. It is a tale as old as time and space. 2 brothers, 2 rival clans, one exclusive hunting ground space I should have put at stake, and a spear made of a familiar material sends some predators to Earth, and thus the involvement of a quite secluded country is the hunting ground between these Earth folk and these predators for reasons you could probably piece together from everything I just said. There is, speaking of MCU, a location that pops up here that seems that is definitely familiar to the MCU, especially in the Black Panther corner, and you will not tell me any different. But yes, as I said on the last on my notes, the hunt is on. It's Wakandans versus Predators, or will be, in this book. How will either fare? We shall find out. And that, folks, is it for me. Kliqs of the week.
Kliqs of the week.
Some candidates?
I do. And they're basically the ones that I named: Nightwing number 117, Giant Size Thor number 1, and I'm kind of borderline thinking about adding either Ghost Rider Final Vengeance as a surprise ad, or Namor, actually, because Namor is actually pretty interesting. Was a pretty interesting read. So, I mean, I'm definitely leaning towards Nightwing Giant Size Store was good, but those other books were like the most interesting that I read this week. What about you?
Ultimate Spidey and ThunderCats. To
Okay.
which I think I'm just going to go ahead and give it to ThunderCats. Final answer.
All right. I'm gonna go with Nightwing 117.
Hmm. That is one that you fancy every now and then. So
Yep.
not surprised by that one. All right, cool beans. And with that, folks, we get over and we're going to get over into the news section. But first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron. Always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us, that's cspn.us, then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today! And shout out to the original Cold Slither podcast crew talking about at TimDog98, at what is he now? At OJ Purple Stuff? Now,
formerly known as Classic Materia, yes.
Right, and at Eclectic.
Indeed. Those are the Osiris's of this.
Yes, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing this.
Or yes, neither
that
one
is
of us.
Absolute truth.
Yes, no, she's absolutely right. Yeah, from humble beginnings.
Yep.
Oops, there we go. And now we get into the news.
That's right, and now we get into the news.
Cinematic news, as we start off with, as we tend to do, Batman Caped Crusader creator, say that 5 times fast, Bruce Timm says, lack of good villains, quote, quote, led to Ginger Swapped Penguin, which apparently some people have stated some unresolved feelings for this penguin, which is amusing to see. But yeah, so apparently there are some fans who also didn't like it. So
wait, that was Mini Driver?
That was Mini Driver, yes.
I gotta go back and watch that now.
Yes. So some fans didn't like it, some people did for thirsty reasons. Funnily enough. But according to Bruce Timm, the inspiration behind the change came from what he says is, quote, a lack of good villains in the world of Batman. During an interview with the Emmys, this is when he said such things. The quote is, James and I were talking about the overview of the show, and we said, one of the problems with Batman is, as he is there a lack of good villains. You got Catwoman, you got Poison Ivy, you got Harley Quinn. He's obviously omitting one particular one for reasons, but it would be really good to have more female villains. And off the top of my head, I said, what if we gender flip the Penguin? And therein lies that. Oh, and producer James Tucker added, when he said, maybe we can gender flip Penguin, I just got this flood of ideas. I was thinking of Marlena Dietrich in her Tuxedo and Cabaret, the musical, and the art form of Cabaret, and I just started drawing. So it just kind of started from there and went on with that as this article continues to go with, and including a little bit of, editorializing from the writer of the thing, which we definitely won't get into. So yeah. Next up.
I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, I didn't care about the gender swap thing, first of all. I'm like, okay, it's the Penguin one way or another. And this version was pretty cold. As I've seen, because there have been some versions of the Penguin that have been equally as cold in other media. and I like that. This one is probably more grounded, than say more classic versions of the Penguin.
Mm.
Yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it. So sadly, I was going to say sadly it was a one and done, but I mean the character could come back in the second season, so that's they're still around.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah. Next up, though.
All right.
Well, actually, wait. I guess you answered the question before we move on.
Well, no, I mean, because at the end of the day, what was the other female villain that you were mentioning?
What, Catwoman or Poison Ivy?
Yeah, there was Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and Harley. I'm like, wait,
right.
so are there any more that are like major Batman villains? Because that's generally who I think of.
No. As far as I can think, that's it. Yeah. I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of get where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
at a certain point, Batman's rogues gallery gets a little weird.
Right. As a lot of them do, to be honest. So.
Yeah, true that. But his as much as anybody else's.
Right. I mean, if you think about it, if you compare it to the only other character who has like a roughly equivalent level of good villains like Spidey, like how many of his are actually women also? Right? Black Cat is always like borderline, right? And we all know that she is just a parallel of Catwoman.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So think about that.
Yeah. Yep. Indeed.
All right. Next up. Hanna-Barbera action-adventure icon Jonny Quest, this is a Roddykat special, is officially moving to Max for its new streaming home as of September 14th, so a few weeks away. The classic 1964 animated series Jonny Quest will have a new streaming home at HBO's Max. Previously, Jonny Quest was available on multiple platforms for purchase or with ads. The move to Max comes only 4 days before the original series' premiere, all the way back on before the anniversary, I guess, 4 days before the anniversary of the original series premiere, all the way back on September 18th, 1964. Okay.
And also 2 weeks before they kill off Boomerang, which is probably the more of the impetus for Jonny Quest moving to Max in the first place.
Got it.
Which is going to end on September 30th. Which, funny enough, I sometimes I keep telling people I keep some late hours, some weird hours, and Jonny Quest comes on like 3 o'clock in the morning. This is on Boomerang. It probably comes on at other times. So I sit so if I'm up and I just happen to have it on, I'm like, yeah, I'm just sitting here watching Jonny Quest, unless it is the new adventures or the kind of 80s when they brought it back. Because if it's not the classic ones, which I already got the DVD copies for anyway, I don't care. So, but yeah, this is cool. Regardless, this is kind of cool, but it's still, like I said, they're killing Boomerang, so we're probably going to get a few more stories like this before the end of next month. And I don't think, this mentions all the iterations of Jonny Quest, and I don't think all of them. I'm not sure if all of them are going to be on there, or it's just the original set. Which actually also kind of made me think, wait, you mean this wasn't on Max already? Because I could have sworn it was. But nevertheless, there is that. Next up, though, Mike Coulter is open to playing Luke Cage again in the MCU. Yeah. He talks about his time on the Luke Cage show, talks about other stuff. And the quote is, I would love to explore it if they found some story, some way, somewhere to take it. And I'm happy that Charlie Cox and those are getting it rebooted. Talking about Daredevil. But I don't have any quote idea if Luke Cage is getting rebooted. I'm not holding anything back. And I think the show was on, that was a Paramount show or whatever, it just ended. So I don't know. It's not like unless he's got something else already lined up, he's free for a second. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Next up,
Kit Harington quips, I'm not going to pretend I took MCU role in Eternals because it was different and interesting. If Marvel calls, you got to do it. Listen, he's just spitting facts.
Yeah, basically. Hell, if they called and said, "Hey, Agent 70, you want to be in a Marvel movie?" Exactly. He's holding up his hands for those who are not watching.
Me, I'm coming, you know?
Right. Exactly. So, like, is that a no-brainer? I mean, unless you're just straight up not unless you're one of those crazy DC fans, which are,
Right.
DC purists, excuse me, then whatever. Ted Lasso, season 4. I'm sorry, no, I'm not reading that. I'm just kidding. I just saw that on the side. I saw that on the side, and
I know. Listen, when I saw that, I was just like, ooh, that's interesting, because I know they said they weren't going to do it. So
right. But actually, James Spader's Ultron is returning for the MCU's upcoming Vision spinoff show, and I have mixed feelings about this personally. So yeah, this comes from IGN through the Hollywood Reporter, which says that Spader has signed on to reprise his role in that series, which still hasn't been named yet, by the way. According to this IGN article, the series has been referred to as Vision Quest in the past, which I'm pretty sure feels like that was the name of. If that wasn't an Avengers arc, that was the West Coast Avengers arc. I think it was the Avengers arc where they disassembled. I can't remember. So that would be kind of appropriate if they kept that. Regardless, yeah, Spader's coming back as Ultron something, which I'm pretty sure they dealt with that during the Age of Ultron, but it's Ultron. He always comes back, so wouldn't be surprised. Next up.
Alrighty, Marvel says X-Men 97 creator Bo DeMeo was fired for quote egregious misconduct after he alleges Disney stripped credit over a gay pride post. So this is Disney and Marvel firing back because DeMeo posted on several social media accounts claiming that he was stripped of writing credits for the show's second season because of a gay pride post he shared to social media. They responded, Mr. DeMeo was terminated in March 2024 following an internal investigation, the studio said in a statement. Given the egregious nature of the findings, we severed ties with him immediately, and he has no further affiliation with Marvel. A source with knowledge of the investigation said evidence was discovered of sexual misconduct and that DeMeo repeatedly violated his termination agreement, which led to the removal of his credits for season 2. Love it.
Yeah, so that's this article and the next couple, so we can skip those next couple because they kind of was, it's pretty little bits of the same thing, actually. And as a matter of fact, the next article had pretty much updated with, I think, some of the stuff you just said. Basically, he was out there popping off, and Marvel came with receipts.
Yeah.
There was somebody who had posted a Key and Peele sketch that seemed, let's just say, kind of appropriate to the situation. If what they said he was doing, or if what he was doing was similar to that sketch, which it, sounds like it could have been. Pretty spot on, let's put it that way. So we've been sitting here wondering why he got fired, and now we know. And he's, not surprisingly, went quiet on Twitter because he's been out there. So he had been, since that happened, he had been kind of quiet. So you hate to see it, but at the same time, man, you kind of put things on yourself.
Right.
But yeah, we're going to skip those next couple and go to Halle Berry. Says that Blake Lively asked if she reprised Storm in Deadpool and Wolverine. She's like, yeah, but she was never asked by Ryan Reynolds or anybody. So we could have had a version of Storm here, which maybe was probably for the best one way or the other. Yeah, it could happen, but it didn't. So next up.
I would get this one. Let's see if I can stop myself from laughing. Channing Tatum says his Gambit accent in Deadpool and Wolverine was supposed to be unintelligible at times, and he was too scared to ask Marvel for the costume to bring home. So, he obviously finally got the chance to play the superhero Gambit in the movie, and he was just too scared to ask Marvel for the costume. And he says, usually I steal the very last outfit that I'm in every movie, and I was too scared to do it on this one because the snipers would be coming for his ass.
The funny part about it is he admits to theft.
Right.
Now, granted, a lot of you hear stories about a lot of them doing this, and so it's not just him doing it, but it's just kind of funny. It's like, yeah, I did it. Which again, other people have too on talk shows, and we're like, yeah, I got that. I took that from a set, whatever. So, not an unusual thing.
Right. And he says that, there was very little improv in what he was saying with his Cajun accent because he's actually taking it from some real life experience because he grew up in Mississippi and his father being from New Orleans. So he'd been exposed to some of that. And he took some of that from real life. And apparently Ryan Reynolds would come up and say, I don't want to know anything that you're saying on this take. So he dialed the accent up really high, and then on other takes, Ryan Reynolds would say, "All right, I've got to understand what you're saying right now." I just get a kick out of the fact that people have gone online, pulled video clips from bootleg cam videos, and use them to make memes. Because like just scrolling through my social media feeds, all I see is, how long I've been waiting for this. I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Right. Also, kind of interesting that it's Ryan Reynolds and not the director saying the things that Ryan Reynolds says. So
yeah, but Ryan Reynolds co-wrote the movie, so it makes a lot of sense that he would be that involved in it.
Yeah, I know. So, but it's still kind of I get it. It's still kind of funny. I haven't seen if anyone's asking, and no one is, but I still haven't watched it yet. So
just go and watch it. Catch it on a matinee.
I got a VPN. Next up. I'll take this. I got this. Sad news. We're not gonna get an Acolyte season 2.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly what I said. So it had been canceled in Disney Plus for reasons that, depending on who you ask, or one reasons for another. Also, the side stories remind me that they really got crunk at the DNC this past weekend, apparently. Anyway, so let's see. According to this article, the news is not entirely surprising. It is to me, damn it. The article goes into the Rotten Tomato shit, which if you've been watching this show or listening to this show any length of time, you probably heard me talk about my thoughts on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a stupid metric to go by. But even with that, like a 78% is still good. I don't know, that's still a passing grade, and it's still pretty good. Like the same thing happens with video games also. It's like, if you get a 70 if the reviews give it a 7, it's bad. Like, that's 3 away from 10. What do you mean?
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. Either way, that aside, it's meaningless because apparently at this point we're not going to get any more.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Was there something else on this article about that? No, it just goes into numbers, and that's whatever. Next up.
Okay. The first Snow White trailer sees Gal Gadot's evil queen go after a singing and dancing Rachel Zegler as she frolics through the forest. Yes, the famous poison apple makes an appearance. Okay. Wow, that's Snow White, huh? Okay.
They're doing that. That's the thing they're doing.
Wow.
You got to hit all of those properties. Disney gives up on trying to use Disney Plus excuse to settle a wrongful death lawsuit. Now, I'm not pretty much I'm not up on this, but I had seen rumblings of this. I'm like, wait, what happened? So apparently there was a lawsuit filed in February by some dude who was the husband of a 42-year-old woman who died last year due to an allergic reaction that occurred after eating at a restaurant in the Disney Springs shopping complex in Orlando. The case, according to this article, gained widespread media attention after Jeffrey Piccolo, who's the person's name, which there's a Dragon Ball joke I can make there, but won't do it. Legal team challenged Disney's motion to dismiss the case, arguing that a forced arbitration agreement Piccolo signed was effectively invisible. Disney initially made no mention of arbitration when it was first addressed in the case in April, instead arguing it wasn't liable because it merely serves as the landlord for the Raglan Road Irish pub and restaurant and had no control over the restaurant's operation. Disney later argued in a filing in May that Piccolo had allegedly entered an agreement to arbitrate all disputes with the company by signing up for a Disney Plus trial in 2019 and using Walt Disney Park's website to buy Epcot Center tickets. Wow. Let me just say they dropped that at this point because...
Hey, man, those lawyers.
Yeah. As one who would know. Yes. That's crazy, though. I did, like I said, this is when I saw this going around. That was the first time hearing about this. I didn't know it had gotten that wide. So, but yeah, there is that, folks.
Listen, if sometimes winning is everything. You'll find a way to win.
Yeah, much to the detriment of
sense. You know, like if you think that theory is going to make it through and win your client a case, you will go that route.
Yeah, that's still sad, but yeah, I know that is a fact of life. Next,
yeah, because you got to win, man. Anyway, even Eternal Champions, Sega's obscure 1993 fighting game, is getting its own movie now. Wait, what?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing I said.
What? Wait. So originally released in 1993, Eternal Champions was Sega's answer to the popularity of Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat. It was heavily hyped for its graphics and enjoyed strong sales, even receiving a sequel on the Sega CD, but it was ultimately axed because Sega reportedly wanted to focus on promoting Virtual Fighter in the US.
Rightly so.
For the life of me, I cannot remember Eternal Champions.
Well, let me go ahead and tell you, it was not a good fighting game, and heavily hyped is being... No, actually, it was heavily hyped, but it was not a good game. I love that game but it was not great. It was not a great fighting game at all.
Okay.
Because like at that time, you and your people just like, hey, you got Street Fighter, you got Mortal Kombat, you got this. You're just playing anything together and just having a ball and listening to music, doing whatever. But the game wasn't good. It was even, and a matter of fact, I believe this game was almost the impetus for the 6-button controller that came to the Genesis, or around about that time. I don't remember. But before that, we had to play Street Fighter with 3 buttons, and that wasn't good. And Mortal Kombat until the 6-button came along. But regardless, none of that matters. But I say this as a person who has some sort of love for Eternal Champions. This doesn't need to happen. This very much doesn't need to happen. But I'm probably going to check it out when it does. Now, maybe not in theaters, but I got to see what this is. What the hell are they going to do with this? Anyway, next up.
You want me to take it?
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I forgot I had to.
No, it's okay.
Amazon's upcoming Masters of the Universe film finds its Tila. And it is a name I feel like I should know. Oh, I do know. Okay, Camila Mendez. Some folks might know her as Veronica from Riverdale. As this article states, actually, and I, for some stupid reason, I knew that before seeing that. You can see a picture of her if you're watching the video version. There you go. I can't be no better or worse than the first that other movie, but that's probably also true. We'll see how that works out, though. Next up.
A Pacific Rim prequel series is being developed by the scriptwriter of Bird Box. It will be an origin story for the Pacific Rim universe. Do we really need this though? Because and I only say that because they really did a pretty good job in that first movie of explaining what happened.
Pretty much. Well, you know what the deal is.
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. Hell, and, and we talked about that graphic novel that's coming out.
Right. So. I mean, if there's anything, listen, I actually like that first Pacific Rim movie. The second one it's pretty not good, but that first one was pretty solid. And I thought it did a good job of like really setting the stage for, future stories. And unfortunately, Uprising, sucked pretty much. But and
it mentions the anime that is also coming.
Right.
That came out already.
Oh, that's right. In 2021.
Right. So yeah, that got that IP, man. You could do something with it.
Yeah.
Speaking of IPs, Monarch Legacy of Monsters is making a big change for season 2. It's moving to Australia. Queensland, Australia, to be specific. And yeah, money, tourism, all that jazz. There you go.
Of course. Just make sure Anna Sawai's still in there.
Yeah, as far as we know, there's no cast changes that we know of at this point. But yeah, just moving. Next up.
Are we in the anime corner?
We are.
So the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim, it's theaters apparently in December. And we got the first trailer, and it's apparently pretty epic. This is a prequel. And let's see. The new movie tells the fate of the House of Helm Hammerhand, the legendary king of Rohan. Okay. The War of the Rohirrim hits theaters in the U.S. on December 13th, capping off a somewhat busy year for the franchise with Season 2 of The Rings of Power streaming at the end of August. Soon, next week.
In 4 days from this recording. Yeah. Which is the day we normally record, actually. And so we probably... Well, maybe have time to check it out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So, yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, like you said, this is in December. Next up, though, the first 22 seasons of Pokemon will return to streaming, which it wasn't on. Like Pokemon's one of those shows that like, nah, that junk's always on somewhere. But apparently, I guess not. It's going to be on the Fast channel, and it will arrive in the US first, with launches in other places like Canada, Australia, UK, and New Zealand. Excuse me. Let's see. Probably going to be on some other streaming channel as a channel. I mean, streaming stuff like Roku, Tubi, and Pluto as a thing at some point. So yeah, that's that. No time frame. Just that it's coming back. Next up.
Wow. No, I only say this because I'm like, wait a second, what is this Fast channel?
We've talked about it before, but we still anything we've talked about surrounding still never gave us anything about what exactly that is. So that is still up in the air, unless that information's out there and we hadn't seen it yet. But that is a damn good question at this point.
I'm like, what?
Yes.
Anyway.
In fact, I will look it up while you do, or attempt to look it up while you give this next one.
Elusive Samurai, and this is some editorializing, is one of the most jaw-droppingly beautiful anime the writer of this article has ever seen. It looks like Cloverworks is going all out. Okay. So Elusive Samurai is a story about a samurai in hiding, but the series itself is so flashy, this writer cannot help but marvel at every frame. Okay. All right, so this is a current show?
I believe it is a
Summer,
new joint. Yes.
yeah, summer 2024. Is this out on? What is this out on?
Not sure. I'm not sure if it's out yet, actually. But excuse me. Sorry. It's late.
Yeah, well, it is late. Yeah.
But not sure. Yeah, this article wasn't didn't say anything about it. I don't know. So I'm going to assume it's not out yet.
Maybe it's because I'm looking for new things to add to my list, so I may want to take a look at this.
Right.
It's on Crunchyroll.
Surprise.
Mhm.
So here's what Fast is. You already know what it is.
I was gonna say there's 8 episodes out so far.
Gotcha. So you already know what Fast is. It's not necessarily a channel itself. It's basically an acronym for those channels. In other words, Roku TV channels, Pluto TV channels, Tubi TV channels. It stands for free ad-supported streaming television.
Okay.
So all of those places like that where just basically have 24-hour channels of stuff with commercials in between.
Mm-hmm.
That's
you mean like regular TV?
Kind of, yes, exactly. Or how
shots fired, folks.
Right. So, but just streaming,
right?
But just streaming one particular thing, like, hey, those charts. I want talking to other people, not you, but like the Star Trek channels and and such, and the anime channels and whatnots. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. But wow. Anywho's next up. The Big O creator Keiichi Sato, draws new art for 25th anniversary. No, there is no T there. July 1999 is when the Big O presented, and I do remember that show. And not to be confused with something that's probably not family friendly. So it's been 25 years. Wow. Sato released 2 pieces of new art on Twitter account on August 11th and 13th. In his first post, the character and mecha designer reveals a piece featuring the characters R. Dorothy Wainwright, Roger Smith, and Norman Berg. In second post, Sato unveiled a bust of the titular robot, the Big O. So, which if you go in the show notes, you can check that out. There, or hey, there you go. You're watching the video version, you just saw them pop up. Next up.
Alrighty, a new species of crustacean was named after Rumiko Takahashi's Ranma character. So, what's a researcher to do when they discover a new species of crustacean that is both male and female? Name it after Rumiko Takahashi's popular character, Ranma Saotome from Ranma 1/2. So they named so in a paper published on July 30th. Actually, no, in a tweet. Master student Yoshinobu Matsushima and Dr. Keiichi Kakui discovered the Tanadeatia Aspudidae at the port of Nagoya Public Aquarium and named it Aspudes Ranma after the character Ranma. Okay.
I'm so glad you got that one. But yeah, I was going to make a joke about, well, like you could very much call it this, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to push on to, you know what? You go ahead and take this one.
No problem. So apparently August 19th is Haikyuu Day in Japan. So they got some announcements on August 19th. So they got some big announcements. There were 2. One was a film art exhibition and a massive fan event. So an art exhibition celebrating Haikyuu the Dumpster Battle will take place later this year, from December 27th to January 22nd, 2025 in Tokyo's Matsuya Ginza. The event will showcase original art, goods, and footage from the film, as well as offering original merchandise featuring the event's artwork seen above. After its run in Tokyo, the exhibition will travel around Japan to locations including Ishikawa, Kanazawa, and Osaka. Additionally, there are some early details on the final event in the Haikyuu 10th anniversary festivities. Haikyuu 10th event Next Step promises to be the largest capacity Haikyuu fan event ever, taking place in Tokyo's Ariake Arena on March 2nd, 2025. That's probably when they're going to drop some more info on the final anime film. So they teased this a little bit at the Haikyuu panel at AnimeNYC as well.
That's an amusing day to have such an event such as this, funnily enough. Next up, Terminator Zero Anime unveils new Red Band trailer. So I will take this time to say that thank you to Agent 70 to reminding me of this being the case. The good folks at Anime News Network, I guess, did all the highlights of the announcement from AnimeNYC, and in the show notes in the clickbait section is an article with everything that was a thing, I guess, in their eyes from there. But we're only putting out a couple, which is one. This is one of them. So, Terminator Zero Anime unveils new Red Band trailer. It was screened, I guess, at AnimeNYC.
Saturday night. Yeah, I thought about sticking around.
Right.
I thought about sticking around, but then I'd be getting home super late. But yeah, they did screen. They did screen, I guess, the first couple episodes.
Right. Ahead of August, which this is also coming out the same day as season 2 of Rings of Power, August 29th. So, will we be talking about it? Oh, maybe. We'll see. But hey, you can check out the trailer again if you haven't already. So, there's some interesting names attached to this series. If we hadn't said before, Timothy Oliphant. No, we haven't actually talked about that one.
Yeah, we have. We have. Because anytime we bring up Timothy Oliphant, I always mention that he's got good hair.
Right. Rosario Dawson, speaking of, coincidentally, from a franchise that they shared together previously.
Right.
Sonoya Mizuno and Ann Dowd, which that name sounds familiar, but I'm not sure from what. Malcolm Lee. Oh wait, no, it's a character name. I don't know who Andre Holland is, and it's probably not Tom's brother. But yeah, that's out there. Next up,
News Viz acquires worldwide merchandise rights outside of Asia for Ranma 1/2. So, continuing on the Ranma 1/2 bandwagon, Viz Media announced during its panel and world premiere screening for the new anime of Rumiko Takahashi's Ranma 1/2 manga at AnimeNYC on Saturday that Viz has acquired the merchandising rights for the new anime worldwide outside of Asia. So Viz Media and Hot Topic, of course, are partnering to release a new line of apparel, including t-shirts, hoodies, pins, drinkware, throws, and posters that will launch this fall. And Viz and Hot Topic screened the official world premiere of the first episode at the event.
Viz were also the original releasers of the anime back in the day.
Yep.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. They released the original anime on VHS. No, actually, yeah, I guess they were because I stand. Never mind what I said. But they also did the manga. I remember watching a little bit of this, but I don't watch a whole lot of it. So,
I had a friend in college who's a big fan. She was a giant fan of this.
Yeah, there are definitely Ranma fans out there. Also, Hot Topic. And now we can push over into the manga corner.
I did see some Attack on Titan at AnimeNYC, but not a ton.
I was supposed to. I don't know why I wasn't expecting that, but okay. Jujutsu Kaisen will finally close its domain expansion, according to this article, once and for all on September 30th. the same day as Boomerang going down. Coincidence? I think not. But yeah, the manga's coming to an end, and that is the date. I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. The manga ended on August 4th. No, sorry. They're talking. I'm sorry. I'm all kind of discombobulated now. So Jujutsu Kaisen is actually ending on September the 30th. They were talking about in relation to My Hero Academia, which concluded manga concluded on August 4th. There we go. Which there was a little rivalry between them according to this article. I don't think that was the case. Says here Jujutsu Kaisen's conclusion is coupled with anxiety, according to this article, among its readership that the Sorcerer Fighter manga can wrap up its story threads and off-screen battles conclusively in 5 19-page chapters, which I guess is what's left. So, and then this article goes on to other stuff, which is probably not relevant. Next up.
I mean, Jujutsu Kaisen is going to be on my list to read. I probably, I guess I'm binging my manga reading because I really want to kind of power through Haikyuu and get to the end of it. Now that the dumpster battle movies come out and they're probably going to wrap up the whole thing, so I kind of would like to see the whole time skip and everything after. So once I finish that, I'll probably jump over to Jujutsu Kaisen because that's going to help me understand what the hell I've been watching. To be perfectly honest, like my buddy at Boss Jones, my buddy Malcolm, helps me a lot with trying to understand what's going on with this whole domain expansion business and all this magic-y stuff. But with Jujutsu Kaisen, but I confess to being very confused sometimes when I'm watching it. So I think I may have to read it just so I can get the gist of what's going on.
Sure.
And I've said this before on the show.
Yeah, I believe you have.
Being confused. So, but anyway, next up, how Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Naruto combines two legendary ninja universes. Good Lord. All right. So, let's see. So it's a crossover. And let's see. IGN spoke with series writer Caleb Gellner via email to learn more about TMNT Naruto, and how the book weaves two wildly different ninja universes together. Goodness gracious, when is this coming out? Scrolling. All right, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles X or Naruto #1 will be released on November 13th, 2024. So that's not too far away. It's later this year.
Right. Usagi Yojimbo needs to be in there, I feel, for a nice little cross-section, but that's probably not going to be the case. Next up, though, some kind of sad news personally, but I get it. Daniel Warren Johnson reveals when he's leaving Transformers.
Oh, no.
Yes. So during an a Reddit AMA, he said that his final issue of Transformers will be issue 24. Still got some time, but
yeah, it's 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the quote. Honestly, I'm having so much fun. I would love to, I guess, go on is what he's saying. But when I make anything, writing, drawing, or both, I only know how to go 110%. So all that to say, I'm killing myself, and I can only go on for so long. My choice to leave at 24 is more of a choice for my mental health and for my family than however I feel about my wonderful Cybertronians. Thank you for the support. So, as Agent 70, as I just found out that Right, no, that's a different book. Never mind. I'm going to shut up now. But yeah, so I mean, 2 years is a pretty good run,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like especially with this franchise, there's probably we don't know where he's getting to, but I feel like there's probably more to go. But also, we have seen this franchise get all but milked.
Right.
in the past, so it's probably fine. Worth noting, we're at the halfway point. Issue 12 comes out September 11th, or almost at the halfway point, I should say. Next up.
Got it. All right. So this article has a first look at Emma Rios's new graphic novel, Anzuelo, from Image Comics. And this has been 8 years in the making. It's coming out in November, published by Image Comics. And yeah, so this is obviously creator owned that Emma Rios has been working on for years. Anzuelo, or Hook, 300 pages long and published by Image Comics in hardcover as part of, and it's been put out as solicited in Image Comics' November 2024 solicits. Let's see here. Pricing. 304 pages, $24.99.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. After 18 years, Cassandra Cain is getting a new Batgirl solo comic, and apparently she's teaming up with her mom, Lady Shiva. And I guess this is the time where I shall say, "Hey, November solicits are out."
Mm-hmm.
So that's where some of this is coming from. But yes, let's see. It's according to this, hot on the heels of the news that she will be scrapping with Dinah Lance and Tom King's new Black Canary based of the best limited series, that being Cassandra Cain, comes an announcement of a new Batgirl comic, which I did not know that. So, okay. New Batgirl comic that will see the assassin team up with her estranged daughter, that's Lady Shiva, team up with her estranged daughter, Cassandra Cain. So it's Batgirl from Green Lantern Dark writer Tate Bromball and artist, Takeshi Miyazawa. So you know the art's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
It's Cass Kane's first solo comic in almost 2 decades, which I didn't know she had any. And we'll see the mother and daughter put aside their differences when they are targeted by a group of assassins. DC promises a, quote, jaw-dropping martial arts field adventure that presents, quote, a Batgirl unlike any other. There is some main cover art from Takeshi Miyazawa and some variant covers also in this article that you can peruse. Next up.
All right, spoilers incoming, folks. So apparently something big comes up in the upcoming DC stuff that leads to, like, I guess the main story that's going to unfold in the main Justice League book, Justice League Unlimited. And a preview for this new book by Mark Waid and Dan Mora reveals that there's a major death in the DC universe, and I mean universe, that spurs a lot of the action that you're going to see in the new Justice League book.
Oh no, Plastic Man. I'm just kidding.
No, not at all. Yeah, this is going to be on sale November 27th, 2024. It's like right after Thanksgiving.
That's not so Wang. Shout out to Gail Simone, if you understand that reference. Infinity Watch series sees Phil Coulson, Colleen Wing lead Marvel's most powerful characters. So this is a Derek Landy and Rory Coleman joint that is going to kick off in December, and I guess this is coming off of those that in Infinity Watch annual thing that's been going down for the last few weeks, which I haven't read any of. Now that I think about,
I've read a few here and there.
Yeah, I got them saved up. I'll probably read them at some point because I did want to see how they brought Coulson back into play. Back in play is the case because I forgot they did actually put him in at one point. So yeah, it is Infinity Watch #1 is the first installment of a 5-issue miniseries, which will release, as I said, in December. Ahead of that, apparently Moon Knight annual, Spider-Boy annual, and the Adventures annuals will, I guess, wrap up the annuals thing that I just mentioned. Next up.
Oh, I love this. Marvel Comics for Dummies condenses 85 years of comic book lore into an accessible primer aimed at getting more people into the Marvel Universe. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right, so do you want to read Marvel Comics but don't know where to start learning? Oh my God. The new book, Marvel Comics for Dummies, has you covered. And yes, that's Dummies meant very affectionately, as is the signature of the Dummies series of books that have offered accessible primers for nearly every topic under the sun. Oh, wow. I love it.
So I saw this, and my first thought was, they really need this for DC more than Marvel.
Yeah.
If we're being now, some would say, "Hey, I'm a Marvel person," so some would say that's a little biased. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not true. It's really not. But Marvel's continuity, yes, it has some dips and slides and a bunch of slides here and there, but it's a lot more straightforward than DC's ever-changing crisis-written bullshit.
Right.
So they absolutely need one of these.
Right. So check this out, right? So real quick, Marvel Comics for Dummies is written by Troy Brownfeld, right?
Oh, I know what
so that's someone who was an editor at Newsarama, right? Captain America for Dummies is also coming out, and it's going to be written by Stuart Moore, who we know as an editor for DC and Vertigo. So check this out. The Marvel for Dummies line will include 6 titles with future installments featuring explainers on the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, Spider-Man, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Apparently, in a parenthetical, according to this writer, X-Men lore seems to have been too dense for even the experts to attempt to condense into one book. That's probably right.
Yes, but also part of me wants to mention, and I probably shouldn't mention X-Men Grand Design.
Yeah.
For reasons one way or another, but yeah, this is still what they're saying here. Yeah, still plays.
Yeah, I mean, listen, X-Men Grand Design, for whatever, Ed Piskor, or whatever that stuff. May he rest in peace. Ultimately that is like at least a version of a condensed history of the X-Men, but it's obviously editorialized to a certain extent and adapted to a very large extent. So it's not exactly just a quick it's not exactly like a Cliff Notes version.
Right. It is a bridge to a point, but yes.
Yeah, which is what these Dummies books kind of are.
Right. And going back to what I originally said, just do DC. They need this way more. I do like that. I thought this was cool and fun. Wait, is there a price on these?
I closed the article already. Hold on.
Well, no, I don't remember seeing one. This is what I'm saying when I read it.
It's not close enough to publication yet for them to have a price.
They will go on sale February 2025, so you are right on that. And it doesn't look like there was a price at this point. Rest assured, when it gets closer and we see a little bit more, we'll let folks know.
Listen, if I see this in a bookstore or in a comic book store, I'm definitely going to flip through it and see if it's worth picking up.
Right, because I'm very much curious as to what they're going to, how they're going to handle this. Yep. All right. Anyway, Age of 70 sent me this. The Vibranium suit makes his debut in Miles Morales' Spider-Man this fall. And Age of 70, reason why Age of 70 brought this up because new figure,
new action figure, folks. Yes. I mean, listen, I like to joke with Roddykat. It's part teasing and part joking, right? Because I'm like, what are they doing to Miles now, right? So because I tease because I joke that. They keep trying to make him different from Peter and all the other spiders, right? Because the Spider Society and the Spider-Verse have created have made a lot of people familiar with like the concept of the Spider Person in all these universes, right? So they're making Miles as different as possible. So they're giving him slightly different powers and different variations on powers. So he's got the sting, the bio sting from Spider-Woman, but he's also got this invisibility, which is unique to him, this camo ability, but now he's a vampire, gotta love it. right? But obviously that's meant to parallel. I think it's meant to parallel the time when Spidey had 6 arms because he was, messing around with Morbius, right? So it's kind of like a parallel to that. But ultimately now
No.
he's got his own Iron Spider suit. It's now a vibranium suit, and it's a new action figure.
Yeah. So that's the main old running joke that Agents of Never 70 also has. Was like every time we see something like this, we know or we feel like there's definitely going to be a new suit. I mean, a new action figure coming out of
Yep.
this thing, and they'll probably put it in the next Spider-Man game if there ends up being, or maybe even put it in the current one. Now that I think about it, probably put it in the last one, then and the one that's out, the last one that's been out, which I still haven't played yet. So. But we have no other, and the comments on this thing is silly, so I'm not even going to talk about that. But apparently, Miles Morales Spider-Man 25 and 26, this coming October and November is when the suit's going to be revealed. So we have no reason why he's getting it at this point. And I guess we'll find out at some point. Next up, though.
Hasbro unveils a new Marvel Legends Punisher War Journal 2-pack. So we see like some inbox images. We did see this at the San Diego in the San Diego announcements. It's a Punisher War Journal 2-pack with the Punisher from a specific era of the War Journal where he was basically rocking an all black costume except for the skull on his chest. And the other character in the 2-pack is Bushwhacker, who does appear in a few issues of Punisher War Journal. So it's an interesting excuse me, it's an interesting choice for a companion character in a 2-pack. So I'm probably going to pick this up eventually. It's a fairly cool rendition of the Punisher with updated joints and whatnot, and updated pew-pews as in weaponry.
Yeah. Also rocking the white headband Rambo style as opposed to red, but
Right.
Transformers Studio Series SS-114 Deluxe Transformers 1 Megatron in hand. So yeah, this is that Megatron figure. Somebody got their hands on it and went through the motions of transforming. This is not the one. This is the tank.
Yeah, this is
the
the
gun.
tank.
But still, somebody's probably interested in it, and whoever that person is, you're a bad person. But nevertheless, there's some in-hand shots of transformation, and I totally forgot about that G.I. Joe and Otto and Cup. That Sergeant Slaughter and Cup set that's coming out, as this article is reminding me. Next up.
Okay, so the first ever gameplay trailer for the upcoming Batman Arkham Shadow appeared at Gamescom's opening night live showcase, and it gives us our first proper look at the upcoming VR take on the adventures of the most therapy-averse billionaire in history, and we saw a little bit of that in Caped Crusader.
Mm-hmm. So I watched this trailer, and I was talking to, as a matter of fact, just last night, or I guess at this point, probably a good 24 hours ago, talking to a friend of mine about this. It's a weird choice because those Arkham games mostly came out for consoles. There was a VR Batman thing. This kind of goes the length into making it I guess a full-fledged adventure thing, and it's VR, which one probably didn't need to be on two accounts. Didn't need to be VR and didn't need to be another Arkham game realistically at this point. But why they chose to make it VR exclusive, I don't know. It's kind of funny. And as my friend Celestial Gaming Goddess pointed out, yeah, this might make some people sick because the gameplay pretty much shows you doing the Batman stuff from the Arkham games, which means you're gliding down into the city. I guess the combat is that Batman combat that if you play those games and whatnot. So yeah, that could potentially make folks sick. It now at this point the tech is probably good enough to where they can offset that if but we don't know whether to have. It's hard to tell from a video of the thing being played, but you can kind of tell it could happen. So But if you're still interested in, you got a MetaQuest 3. I know some people who do. Then you might check this out. I have a VR headset. I don't see myself getting this. Or at least, unless it goes on some very, very deep discount. Because I am kind of curious about it, but at the same time, there is, like I said, there was a Batman experience that's probably take care of that itch. Next up, though,
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle has a Nazi slapping mechanic. A hands-off preview highlights Troy Baker's spot on Harrison Ford impression. Okay. So this game is set in 1937 in the space between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade, and it's being developed by Machine Games, the studio behind the most recent Wolfenstein installments. Okay. So Indy in the game has a whip, a revolver, and his fists or palms, apparently. And he can slap Nazis. That's pretty cool.
I mean, that's what you want out of Indiana Jones. Which, again, also Indiana Jones movies have been playing. Matter of fact, I was watching a couple earlier today because those movies been coming on. They got a channel set up for those movies playing this month.
Nice.
Yeah, so saw a little Temple of Doom, a little bit of Raiders. You know, I think I did catch a little bit of King Crystal Skull and quickly turned that off. But you know, but yeah, this game continues to look good. I don't what they said about the voice acting. It's competent, yes, and it does definitely sound like him. But after a few minutes, it kind of personally rubs on you. But you should check out the trailer because it's a pretty good trailer. But the one this you have to get into it for a little bit because like it's the voice actor talking over gameplay stuff and not necessarily a whole lot of gameplay, and there's some behind the scenes stuff, but there is a little bit of gameplay bits in it also. So I'm looking forward to that.
I was gonna say it's coming to Xbox and PC on December 9th, and in spring 2025 is when it hits PlayStation 5.
Yep. Yeah, they announced that also during Gamescom this past weekend. So that's along with some new footage.
Got it.
Yeah. Next up, though.
Next up, Universe's CCG Star Trek Lower Decks Challenger Series hits pre-order. So this is a collectible card game for Lower Decks, folks. And UVS Games has placed this game into pre-order with a release date of December 6th, 2024.
Somewhere Matt Wang is squeeing.
Really?
Probably not, but I know he like myself likes Lower Decks, and he also loves card games. But he's also more specific to Magic. So I don't know if he goes outside of that too much outside of stuff that he's dealt with. But I feel like this would probably be something that he might have some interest in. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, collectible card games, and this whole like battle, like creating decks to battle other people is obviously is translated across many different IPs.
Oh yeah,
and it's interesting to see UVS Games has Attack on Titan as well. That's a link in the story. And I just very quickly wanted to mention that even at AnimeNYC, there is of course gaming section for both video gaming and tabletop gaming.
Yep.
And card gaming, collectible card gaming.
I love it. I want to go to Gen Con one of these years, but I don't know if that's in Indiana. That's a stretch. But anywho's, new Godzilla King Kong games have been announced. Let's see. The earliest of these games will come next month when Godzilla X Kong Titan Chasers releases on September 5th. That game, which includes the two characters, is a mobile-only title and actually features many more monsters other than those two. Already two strikes against it because it's a mobile game. I do like mobile games. Don't whatever. But yeah, I don't know. This talks about who develops it and other stuff they've done. There's a gameplay trailer here if you're interested in that. And there's another game called Kong Survivor Instinct, which focuses its attention squarely on Kong, as the name would suggest. It's a 2.5D game that'll come to all current platforms. Well, you'll play as a father searching for his missing daughter through a city that's presumably under some monstrous threat. Yada yada Monsterverse. There's a Roblox blocks crossover, which, speaking of monstrous things, let's see. That's about it for now. Last but not least,
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World producer teams with publishing veterans to launch a new comic book company. So producer Eric Gitter has spent many years bringing comic books and graphic novels to the screen, working on movies such as Extraction, Atomic Blonde, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Now he's diving deeper into the genre as the co-founder of a new comic book and graphic novel publisher, teaming up with several independent publishing veterans in the process. Joining Glitter in the new venture are former Boom Studios topper Philip Sablik as publisher, former IDW head Jamie S. Rich as editor-in-chief, and comics creator Jeremy Hawn as creative director. The currently untitled company will eschew superheroes and lean towards horror, science fiction, crime, and fantasy. The company did not disclose funding, nor did it unveil a slate, although it hopes to lock up creators by the end of the year or early next. Its goal is to begin putting out books sometime in 2025. Okay.
Okay. We did talk about Jamie Rich leaving IDW at some point in the past month or two, so now we got where he landed. Good luck, I guess. We'll find out more at some point.
I wanted to mention this one paragraph in this Hollywood Reporter article.
Okay.
So the launch comes amid a disruption in the comic book publishing landscape. Sales suffered a significant downturn last year, with one of the few bright spots being licensed fare, such as Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Independent publisher Boom Studios was acquired by Random House Publishing in the spring, while indie outfit Aftershock filed for bankruptcy in December 2022, and IDW suffered layoffs this year.
Yeah, which we talked about that part, the Aftershock thing.
Yeah, we have heard about this. Yeah, we've heard about business stuff like this, especially from our friends of the podcast in the business.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, and yeah, you did mention the whole Random House Boom Studios thing. Also, was part of things. Yeah, I don't. There's not much to say about any of that. Also, outside of it's still a world market. Good luck.
Yeah, it's and just very quickly, we've talked about how comics has been in this weird space. Obviously coinciding with the weird space that the MCU and the other comic book based movies are in. So it's definitely a difficult time for publishers as they're trying to reconfigure themselves into a money making enterprise.
Right, and the land / cash grab of trying to bridge the two by making an IP that they turn into a movie has also been a thing in the past few years. To some of it, you can point to the aforementioned Extraction, which I don't think I've seen the second movie yet, but the first one was alright.
The second one was alright.
Yeah, I keep meaning to check that out because I know it's out, but I just hadn't. I didn't think it needed a second one, but that's just me. So yeah, it's like I said, it's a weird market, and it is what it is. I guess at this point, it's going to continue to be for some time. That, folks, is the end of the news section. As I pull away from that right there, did you want to go into your
Toy Corner very quickly, folks, because it's late and we're all tired. But I did get a bunch of things, and some of this is a little bit of a recap and a continuation of the Toy Corner I did with the stuff I got from AnimeNYC yesterday. But from San Diego Comic-Con, our friend of the podcast, @MattWang97, was able to get me the exclusive Son Goku and Son Gohan Kid and Quinto figure. And here it is. There it is. Oh, I may have to turn off the background here just to show this off because it's pretty cool. But yeah, one of the cool things about this is that you get the Quinto in there, and you can see it just as I flip the box over. You see it right in the back of the box, right? So, you know, some people will call it the Flying Nimbus, and I will get mad, and, you know, but I'll be happy to have that. I ordered a few things on Amazon, and I may have forgotten to show them last week. I think Roddykat asked, because I think I mentioned that I'd gotten them, but I completely spaced and forgot. I left them in the I left them downstairs by the front door, and they weren't up here in my home office or handy for me to talk about. But I did get. I finally pulled the trigger on a couple of things that have been in my Amazon cart. One is the Fire Lord Marvel Legends. This came out during that that wave with the Fantastic Four on this retro card packaging. So, you know, Fire Lord is infamous amongst friends of mine who I played Hero Kliqs with, because he was an overpowered character in the very first wave of Hero Kliqs, and he was a notorious character in that first wave. You may want to Google that to see why everyone hated Fire Lord in that first wave. Next thing I picked up was Daisy Johnson, aka Quake, Marvel's Quake. Right? And there's a theme to the next two, to her and the next character I'm going to pull, because they have something in common. But I wanted to get this character because, listen, I've always been a fan of Quake. I hope Chloe Bennett can play Quake in the MCU at some point, like the MCU proper at some point. But yeah, no, this is a great rendition of the character with the gauntlets, and it does come with an alternate Maria Hill head, but we already have a Maria Hill, so you know we don't necessarily need that one. We may actually just use that, kind of she has got like a microphone on it and make that whatchamacallit, Quake, but I think it's supposed to be a Maria Hill head. And last, is Karnak. So what did I say these two characters had in common? They're Inhumans. So yeah, I'm kind of gearing up for Crystal and Latra coming out, and I wanted to snag these Inhumans characters before they became not that they will ever become rare, but I wanted to make sure I had them before they became harder to find. And that's it for Toy Corner for me.
Last ad read, please.
Sure. One moment. Our last ad of the night is keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
All right, folks, that's it. We will be back next week with hopefully, I suspect it'll be out in time for us to be able to watch it, but Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power Season 2 starts up next week. That Terminator anime starts up next week, so maybe we'll get a chance to also on the same day, so maybe we'll get a chance to watch those. One or the other, probably be Rings of Power we talked about more than the Terminator ones, probably. Outside of that, yeah, we'll be back with more stuff and to kick off the end of this month. With that, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at TBCaps on Instagram. You can also find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. Agent_7 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal of the Podcast Network at cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast place of choice, whether it be Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and leave us all the positive 5-star reviews, most especially on Apple Podcasts, because that helps people find our show.
And hey, if you want to catch us live, normally we record on Thursday nights. We did not tonight because things happen Thursday. So, but
Life was lifing,
basically. Thursday nights, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time is when we normally record on the channels. YouTube.com/TheKliqNation and Twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you know when we are on live and direct, like tonight.
And of course, the Twitch channel will have more stuff. Like I said, I'm still gearing up to think. I kind of want to start off with a theme, but I don't know. I'm getting in my own head about all of that mess. It's not like I haven't done it before. But anyway, yeah, stay tuned. There will be stuff streamed outside of this podcast on that particular channel. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.